Okay, we're here in episode 3 of A Blether with, and today I'm delighted we've got Carrick McDonald from the Rutherglen Heritage Society, which is fantastic. Thank you for joining us,
Not at all.
Carrick. And it's a really, I think, the most important time for us to be talking about the heritage of Rutherglen with a big anniversary next year.
Absolutely. We are going to be playing our key part in that as far as we can, recognising the importance of next year being the 900th anniversary of the Royal Borough. So we're doing our bit to get involved in that and to leave a lasting legacy.
Well, we'll come back and talk about it, because 900 years is extraordinary, actually, when we think about just how long back in history the Royal Borough has gone. But let's start just with a bit about how did you get involved in this whole heritage business and the Rutherglen Heritage Society in particular?
Yeah. Well, I began volunteering with Healthy and Happy back in 2018, and as part of the training, the guys showed us how to work the radio studio. And at the end of the training, the guy said, right, let's have your programme ideas. Most of the guys who were in the same course as me were younger people. I was the oldest by far, and they're all aspiring DJs and so on. But there's no way I'm going to be a DJ.
You can be aspiring DJ at any age.
You're right, is that right? You're like, well, no, I'll just make it simple here. Right, what I'll do, I'll make local history programmes for you. That went down quite well, so that was fine. But anyway, cut a long story short, I agreed to do half-hour programmes for them. I would find the person to talk to, the topic to talk to them about. I would record them, much as we're doing here today, edit it all down, email the programme into Camberland Radio. They would then kind of top and tail it, do magic to the sound levels and so on, and put it on the system. So 50 programmes later, I'm still doing it. So I'm very proud of that archive there. I spoke to some amazing...
You were telling me earlier you can catch up on all of those episodes on Mixcloud.
You can, that's right. There's a link. There's a link on our website to Camglen's Mixcloud page, and all the programmes are on there.
Brilliant. We're not sponsored by Camglen, but
No, indeed.
but
it's very good too.
So that's brilliant. And then the Heritage Society itself, which has been going since 2012?
2012, yeah. They were going in different shapes and forms before then, dating back to an exhibition in the town hall in the early 2000s, and the groups kept together after that. They were also involved in the excavation of the old Caledonian pottery works before the M74 extension covered it all over. So they were heavily involved in that. So they can morphed from that into Rutherglen Heritage Society, which came together formally in 2012. And then as part of the Camglen Radio initiative that I was doing, I need to find guys to talk to find out about, so the guys to talk to are the local Heritage Society. So I tracked them down, went along to a couple of meetings. I thought I quite fancy this anyway, whether I get in out of this in terms of programmes or not. So I ended up joining up in 2018. And 2 years later, I ended up as convener with the society. So how did that happen?
So something went well then.
Well, it did, yeah, clearly. So I really enjoyed that. So I've been convener ever since then. And then, it's gone fine. The membership's gone up. We've got our own website, which we put together shortly after I joined. We get lots of new members through the website, which is great. And website subscribers. And we populated, primarily during lockdown, it gives us a good chance to get a lot of stuff on the website on a variety of local history topics. So that's gone down pretty well, and we're pretty proud of that.
So it's also a bit of a gateway into all the people that have lived in Rutherglen in the past and moved elsewhere, where I think more and more people have got this real connection to local history. It's become much more popular in the last
year. Absolutely. And there's a big diaspora from Rutherglen, primarily in North America and Australia and New Zealand. They keep in touch via the website. It's a great source of information for them.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of inquiries from them, and the contributions that I've had from local groups as well that I've worked with, People's Past, People's Future springs to mind. They've been really good. And again, it's getting local people's voices to record their memories and get the chance to get it down digitally. That's up for intelligence now, It's there for all time.
We were talking about this a bit before, about that sense of people actually sharing their experiences of living in Rutherglen, and we were saying history so often has been written by kings and queens and the great battles of history, all very fascinating.
Right.
But actually more and more it's people's real lived experiences, and particularly this kind of format of recording their voices, talking about it is more and more important.
Yeah, indeed. We found out, Zen and I, who I mentioned earlier on, who our partner in the new book project, she and I were very keen to get local people's voices in as part of the book, quotations direct from conversations and interviews that we've had with them, to put the item in context. Maybe it's about industry or coal mining. A wee bit down below, my dad worked there, my mum worked in that shop. So, wow, it brings it to life then,
Yeah. And I was trying to think the last few history books I've read, I'm a bit of a nerd for history, but they've all been that sort of narrative history of sort of people's experiences of big events, but look past the
that's right.
normally write about to the actual people experience.
Well, given the guys I've talked to in the last couple of years, there's a huge archive there of people's lived experiences, which will form an important part of the book.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned a couple of things we should come back to. Zen Boyd in the library, who has a fantastic resource of the Rutherglen Heritage Centre, I think we call it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
What can people do there?
Well, they can do an awful lot in there. Zen works there, I think, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. She's got a huge archive of local newspaper going way back to 1950s, I think it is. You can comb through them if you want. She's got an archive of photographs and old maps. She also does a family tree facility as well. And you can pursue that if you go to see Zen by appointment. So she's been really good. She's a key partner in the book project because A, from the writing point of view, and B, providing all the resources that I've just mentioned there. It's made our life a lot easier when we were writing the book. All that was in their fingertips.
I think the accessibility of archives is really important because for such a long time, archives were these things that were sort of kept away from ordinary people that just wanted to find out about their family or their street. Or now they're much more accessible. I remember we were doing a wee video for Remembrance Sunday, and we were looking back at the 1945 and the celebrations in the streets in Rutherglen, and it was the archives of the Rutherglen Reformer, and were all really accessible actually.
Brilliant.
Now, we should come back to Rutherglen 900 at some point. So 900th birthday next year, huge milestone. What actually is that? 900 years of what?
When they were made a royal borough by King David I in 1126. Now, there's some debate as to who is the oldest royal borough. A lot of folk in the town here say it's us, but I'm not that bothered whether it is or not. I mean, I should be in terms of town pride. But we are one of the oldest royal boroughs in Scotland, and that'll do me. You could end up in all sorts of rabbit holes trying to prove, that you are the oldest. Other towns in Scotland have got the same kind of claim. It's all down to what documentation you can produce to verify your claim as the oldest royal borough. So there's a whole book to be written there on that alone, So we're one of the oldest royal boroughs in Scotland.
And in researching, so you're writing a book about the 900 years.
Right.
I think the last update we got, it's 400 pages.
And growing and counting, yes, indeed.
So clear your diaries next year, which published
completely. A bit of a doorstopper, yeah. It's a big volume. The reason we did it was 4 or so years ago, in a moment of weakness, I said to the committee, wouldn't it be a great idea if we wrote a new history book in time for the big anniversary? Great idea, so it went down well. So I thought, what have I done, So we got involved in that, and one of the reasons we did it was 1922 was the last time a single volume history of the town was written, Rutherglen Lower, by W. Ross Shearer, local librarian. So it was time for a new book in any event, building on what he'd done, and kind of updating his research with new research, new archive resources which Shearer could never have dreamt of. We've got access to now. Clearer images, colour photographs. So we've got all the resources there, the information, the technology, and the guys to do it. It's pulling all that together. So it's been a hugely exciting project and really worthwhile thing that we're doing. And everyone talks about legacy these days. The big kind of buzzword is legacy. That's a definite legacy product of the 900 celebrations. The book itself, once that gets launched next May, it's something we're hugely proud of, and I hope the town will appreciate the amount of work.
The sheer amount of work that goes into it, but also I'm guessing you get to the point where it's the editorial, what doesn't get included on the hardest.
Funnily enough, Zen and I are talking to the editor this morning, so he's a really good guy, Craig Lamont, who we're lucky to get on the team. So he's started to earn his corn now. He's coming back with some initial feedback. He's thinking, okay, So to be fair, most of the team, I think, are not too precious about their text. If it's too long, editor's job to cut it down. Yeah. That's where you earn your con.
So, really interesting. We've got that pulling it together. Have you uncovered anything particularly interesting as you've been doing all that research?
We got bits and pieces you come across. There was a shipyard here back in Victorian times, ran to the 1920s, I think it was, down on the river at the bend in the Clyde. It specialised in, obviously, small vessels that were exported all around the world, sometimes in sections on the decks of larger vessels, to lakes and rivers all over the world. And as the British Empire expanded and other empires expanded, there was a huge demand for small seaworthy ships. So one of the ships I came across was a screw steamer called the Voldrogue, which is ordered by the Consulate of Haiti in Glasgow. So, wow, that's very niche. So they ordered up a vessel called the Voldrogue, named after a river in Haiti. Voldrogue was taken across to Haiti, I can't remember exactly the date, and it arrived in Haiti at a very volatile episode in the country's history. Ever since it got independence from France, there's one coup after another. So within days of it arriving, the Voldrogue was captured by rebels who were going to overthrow the government. So they renamed the Voldrogue the Providence, and it opened fire on a British ship which is carrying munitions for half of the government. Right. Fire was returned by HMS Bulldog, who happened to be in the area, and it sank the Voldrogue. So in a matter of less than a year, in the sea trials in Rutherglen, ended up in Haiti, commandeered by rebels, took part in a coup, and was sank by a British gunship. Think all that for a small vessel.
That's what a story from Rutherglen, and so it's somewhere at the bottom of the sea in Haiti.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing. So there's all sorts of stories like that, and anecdotes that you come across. We rabbit holes you can go down,
And I think we tend to think now of Rutherglen. I always say this when I'm talking to people who aren't from this part of the world, that we tend to think of Rutherglen as on the border of Glasgow. Sure. But that's Royal Borough identity and stories like that. To go back through history, it very much had its own identity as separate.
Hugely important
from the city.
Important. And 1975, when, as you know yourself, when the local government organisation changed round and we lost our Royal Borough status, then you lose a huge part of your identity, We still call ourselves the Royal Borough. If you drive along Kings Park Avenue, heading in here, you see "Welcome to Royal Borough Rutherglen." Yeah. Fine, echoes of it are still there, but and the history you can't take away. The wide main street with the cattle fairs, it's all part of that same legacy. The Scots Baronial Town Hall, the Carnegie Library, it's all echoes of a very prosperous past that the town had, and the history from early history. Through the Industrial Revolution, the Scottish Wars of Independence, Rutherglen played its part in all of these things, and it can be hugely proud of, the men and women that were involved in that. Plus, there's a whole book to be written about the sporting legacy, the football guys that came from Rutherglen, men and women. So there's tons, it's just a big book.
Yeah, exactly. I can see why we're getting through the chapters already. We won't give away any more spoilers. Sure. Like when you were talking about coming along Kings Park Avenue into Rutherglen, one of the other things in that particular bit is the boundary stones. Yeah. That's another project that the Heritage Society is working on.
Fairly early on, when they were looking for things to concentrate on, before I came on the scene, the boundary stones was a huge thing. There's only about 60 odd left now, from originally 300.
Only? That says quite a lot.
Compared to other royal boroughs, we're lucky to have so many, There are certain royal boroughs in Scotland that don't have any left. They lost all these years ago. So they were laid out back in the dawn of time, when the Royal Borough began with, to mark out the boundary between us and other areas, the surrounding areas, notably Glasgow. And every so often, we'd do a reading of the marches, where the great and the good would go round and make sure the boundary is still intact. All the boundary stones are still there. The boundary stones were laid by guys called burgesses, who were guys who brought wealth, prosperity, and fame to the town. They were recognised as being made a burgess. But part of your deal as a burgess was, you'll let put a boundary stone at a certain point in the old borough boundary. It'll have R for Rutherglen carved onto it, the date it went down, and your initials as a burgess. So some of them are still there, but they're covered in moss and they're worn away because the original sandstone doesn't last too well. But one of our jobs, continuing jobs, is to look after the ones that are left as far as we can.
And how many of them are sort of easily accessible? How many can people walk up and see?
Well, quite a few. You probably drive by them every day, 2 or 3.
I realise.
A lot of them are in wooded areas. A lot of them are in people's back gardens now, the way that things, the housing development and so on. Some of them are in next to industrial units. You suddenly find themselves marooned in this whole new environment, from where they originally were. Some of them are no longer on the boundary. They've been moved for preservation into people's gardens. Hamilton Museum, I've got 5 or 6, I think. So they're kind of held in captivity, if you like. So to be fair to them, there's well in there than out in the open.
We've not extended the boundaries.
No,
just for the avoidance of South Lanarkshire Council. So
every couple of years,
really interesting.
We do the rounds and make sure the ones that we know about are still there.
Yeah.
And we're right out to the residents of people at the back garden. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Well, we've got a stone in your back garden. Can we come and look at it, please? So everyone's fine with that.
That's great.
Quite proud of one in the back garden. The shows around the back, photographs, measurements to make sure it hasn't sunk any further into the ground. So it's a big project.
That's really good.
And
really good.
We do it without any resources or support for anybody else. They're not listed items as such. There's no protection on them as such, really. So it's up to us to make sure that the ones that are left are safeguarded.
Yeah. And that's partly what I think is so interesting about Heritage Society, that's not just a sort of looking through the archives. You're doing a lot of active
field work,
recording new history as well, but also that field work part as well. So if somebody's sort of listening to this or following the website or next year in particular, I think you'll have a big increase in people thinking about heritage. How could folk get involved?
Well, they can contact us through our website. I would give the website address, but it's a bit of a mouthful.
We'll stick it on.
Well, if they just Google us on Rutherglen Heritage Society, they'll find us there. And there's a contact us bit in the website, and there's a bit to join up if you want. So it's all there on the website. But we've also got a project now, if I may, to place replica boundary stones on the old borough boundary, the old royalty boundary. Say maybe the north of the boundary, the south of the boundary, the west and the east, the kind of compass points of the old royalty boundary. So we're trying to get some finance together and to people to produce the stones, which will commemorate another legacy project, if you like. So that at the end of 2026, there'll be 4 new boundary stones there to commemorate the big event.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll have R for Rutherglen, as they always did, RHS for the Heritage Society, and the date that went down, 2026, is a lasting memory of the
as a legacy for next year as well.
Absolutely.
It's really good. Look, thank you so much for joining us. And I think next year is this fascinating moment for people who have maybe lived here their whole lives, or I think a lot of people moving into Rutherglen who have never lived here before, who maybe have no idea about the huge history of the Royal Borough, to dive into it a bit and buy the book. If nothing else, which will be available in good bookshops near you, I'm sure.
The book will be free of charge. So
brilliant.
We're looking at ways of maybe accepting donations for the book, try and cover some of the costs. But the initial decision was made fairly early on. We're not going to charge for this. It's a labour of love you could actually, So people locally, people in the town and further afield in libraries and universities and other resources can have it free of charge. So it's great.
It's a lovely kind of gift in that year as well. The town itself.
Yeah, and a true legacy product, I think. Yeah.
Well, if you're listening to this, or if you've come across the Heritage Society somewhere else and you want to get involved, there's lots of ways to do that. It's a fascinating time to be part of that story, and I think to keep that legacy going as well, so that there's the next generation of people with an interest in the heritage continue to build on it. Carrick, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much for all you do and for what you're going to do next year as well.
Well, thanks for talking to me.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay.